All right, let's see if we can run electricity through water and see if we can break apart water, whatever that means. We're just doing what scientists were doing in the early 1800s. I'm going to read off the set of procedures here. You should do the same. So fill your cup or glass with water. Bam, I've already done that. And add 2 spoonfuls of baking soda. So this will, some sort of dissolved compound like this can increase the conductivity of the water. Why that is an upcoming lab. So I'll just set this aside, mix it up. This might take a little bit of time. So I'm going to mix this for a few minutes and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, it's a little bit less cloudy now, but I can tell a lot of it has dissolved. So maybe like 3 or 4 minutes of mixing should be sufficient. The less baking soda you use, the quicker it'll be. Okay. The next thing to do is label each test tube with a marker, the label 1 positive and 1 negative. So let me go ahead and do that. And the one that's labeled positive will be connected to the positive terminal of the battery, and the one that's labeled negative will be closer to the negative end of the battery. So that's my positive one. It's my negative one. Okay, step 3 and 4 is to fill each test tube and invert it into our solution with the baking soda. So here's my test tube label with a plus sign. Let me fill this up. And if you have a large tub of water, you can just submerge it in water and fill it that way, but I'll try to fill it to the tippy top. Put my thumb over it. Step 4 is invert it. Here is a test tube labeled with a negative symbol. Fill it up to the tippy top. Thumb on. Carefully invert it. So I have 2 test tubes inverted into my solution with baking soda. Just make sure they're kind of affixed neatly. So step 4 is insert the curved end of each electrode into the inverted test tube and connect one end of the alligator clip to the electrode. I have this nice J electrode. You guys have a wire with an exposed end, so just make sure the exposed end goes up into the mouth of the test tube. So just like that. Take your other wire, just like that, and then connect one alligator clip to this electrode and another alligator clip to this electrode. Okay, we are making progress. Connect the other side of each alligator clip to the metal electrodes on the battery. Ensure the alligator clip connected to the test tube labeled positive goes to the positive electrode. So this one is labeled positively. It's going to connect to the positive end of the electrode. I'll set that over here. To the battery. This is the negative, so it's going to go to the negative terminal of the battery. And bam, that's all set up. Let the experiment run until a substantial amount of gas is collected in the test tube, at least 2 centimeters full of gas. So I will let it run. Okay, so I have it hooked up. The rate of bubble production looks pretty slow. It's been running for a couple minutes now, and I have 2 little tiny bubbles forming at the tip of each test tube. But I know just from experience that the rate of bubble production can be a little bit quicker. And there's a couple things you can try. So one is you can actually raise up the test tubes a little bit to kind of bring the distance between the 2 electrodes a little closer together. Oops, my thing came undone. So yeah, so if you can hold them here like this, you can also figure out how to tape it to the glass a little bit elevated. Or sometimes more baking soda can work, so we put in two large spoonfuls, but maybe the water could be even more conductive with more baking soda. So that's the second thing you could try. So getting the electrodes as close together as possible, more electrodes, or hook up two batteries in series. So don't pump 9 volts into the system, pump 18 volts. So here's a close-up view of the system. Let me try to hold these up higher. And you can see the bubbles really start to come up fast. Notice when I lower it, it's hard to tell, but there's a slower rate of bubble production. Raise it up a little bit, you can see the bubbles come out more. And then, of course, you see the pockets of air bubbles forming at the top. And you'll notice that this test tube is collecting more gas relative to this test tube. That's just something to note. And of course, this test tube is the one connected to the yellow, which is connected into the negative. So for some reason, the electrode connected into the negative terminal of the battery, which is this one, is producing more gas. So I'm merely making an observation right now. And so let's let this run for a few more minutes until we collect, about 2 or 3 centimeters of gas. So it's been about 15 minutes. I've let this run. You can see I have about 5 centimeters in this test tube. This is the test tube connected to the negative terminal of the battery. And I have about 4 centimeters, or a little bit less gas, in this tube connected to the positive terminal of the battery. So I think this is enough gas collected to try to make sense of what's going on, what electricity is doing to the water, what type of gas is being produced. So we can stop the experiment now. The way to stop it is simply to just disconnect one of the electrodes from the battery, and now the gas stops. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, let's jump to part 2 of this lab. I'm just going to disconnect all the batteries, set them aside. I can get rid of the alligator clips, set them aside, and I'm going to read from the procedure. Save the gas in the test tube by keeping them inverted. They are saved. Choose which test tube you will test first and what test you will do, the hydrogen test or the oxygen test. So this procedure is assuming that one of the gases produced is oxygen, one of the gases is produced as hydrogen. So let me go ahead and run the test for hydrogen in the test tube that was connected to the negative terminal. So that's the test tube with a little bit more gas. So I'm going to run the hydrogen test. And to do that, step 3 is ensuring the mouth of the test tube stays below the surface of the water. Place your finger or your thumb over the mouth of the test tube and invert it so none of the gas escapes. Step 4 is pull, and I'm going to read this all because it takes a little bit of dexterity and almost like choreography to get it all right. Pull the test tube out of the water, keep it sealed, have your partner. I don't have a partner right now. Hopefully you do. If not, you got to be super coordinated. So I'll try to show you how to do that by yourself. You can pick which test to do. Like I said, I'll start with the hydrogen test on the test tube labeled with the negative sign. But you only get one chance, because then if it's successful, the gas just goes away. If it's not successful, well, you lost the gas. So the test for hydrogen is ignite your wood in the splint and keep the flame going. Carefully but quickly insert the flame into the gas. So let me go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light my wood flint on fire, have a flame going. With one hand I'm going to stick my thumb up under the test tube with the negative label on it, whip it over, and then I'm going to stick the flint in, the wood flint in, right after I move my thumb. So that's my plan. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to light the match, hopefully. There we go. So I'm going to light the wood flint. Drop that in that water. So while I have my wood flint going, I'm going to try to put my thumb over the... Okay, got it. I'm going to take the other dry end of this flint, and for the auction test, with the auction test in here, you don't have a flame, you just have a lit ember. You stick the lit ember inside of the test tube, just like I did before. I'm going to invert it, and you see what happens. So let me light a match again. I'm going to take the dry end of this wood flint, create a flame. I'm going to keep the flame going, but I'm going to blow it out before I do the test. Thumb over the mouth, whip it over, burning ember.